I'm the president of Covenant Eyes, and I want to welcome you to our ongoing series of Facebook Live and YouTube Live that we're doing here at Covenant Eyes with a wide variety of specialists and resources in the area of pornography and sex addiction and also sexual exploitation, including human trafficking. We have many videos that we've already done. We have a special one today that we really have not focused on in the past, and I want to encourage you to continue listening to this. We also have a special one coming up tomorrow. We don't usually do one on Thursdays, but we do have one coming up tomorrow that's going to be a very interesting one, and so I would encourage you to join us again at noon tomorrow. But for today, we have with us Coach Sarah. Coach Sarah is from a group that is called Betrayal Trauma Recovery. Betrayal Trauma Recovery. And this organization, the organization that she belongs to, the Association of Partners of Sex Addicts, Trauma Specialists. Kind of a long way of saying that if you've been betrayed by your spouse, what do you do next? And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So, Sarah, I want to welcome you to our Facebook Live. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Ron. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. We're going to put your website up so that if people want to contact you, they can look in the comments and link directly to it. Many testimonials on that website indicate that this is really a great resource for those who have been betrayed. I've talked to a number who have been betrayed, especially women. In fact, I think virtually all women who have been betrayed. And I'd like to start off with looking at how they feel. You wrote a blog for Covenant Eyes on gaslighting. And so I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about gaslighting, what it is and what it does to the woman particularly.
Absolutely, I would love to. I believe gaslighting is a very, very important topic, one that a lot of people don't really know. If they do, they kind of only know a little bit of it because it's a very, very complex thing. In its most simplest kind of definition, gaslighting is anytime somebody tries to convince you that either your perceptions of reality, maybe your feelings, your opinions aren't valid or aren't accurate. So an example of that would be a husband and wife are out to dinner, and with our demographic, the husband maybe looks at another woman in the restaurant in a obviously inappropriate way. The woman sees that and comments, hey, I'm right here, like, what are you doing? And the husband then says something along the lines of, if you weren't insecure, you wouldn't even think that I was doing that. This is about you. This is about your misperceptions. This is about you being insecure. It's your faulty thinking that is making this situation be what it is. So it's kind of manipulating the situation, but extra, because it's not just trying to get somebody to do something. It's trying to get somebody to see things the way that you see them, the way that you're trying to project them. So if someone is in an active behavior that isn't healthy and they don't want to get caught, then they're going to try to redirect and get the situation to be believed to be how they are wanting to project it.
Is this a common thing? I mean, for a husband who has been discovered to use pornography, even be a sex addict, is it common for the husband to try to make the wife feel like her feelings are invalid, or maybe it's even her fault?
It's very common, and there's a number of different reasons why it's a common behavior. Another example is a shame response, right? So if the addict is caught in a behavior, like maybe he got caught looking at pornography again, and the wife confronts him, that shame response makes it, I don't want this to be about me, right? Because then I'm bad again. So this has to be about you. If you weren't so angry, or if you had sex with me more often, or if I could somehow put the blame on you, then the blame isn't on me for misbehaving or acting out, and then I can kind of let go of that shame. So there's a number of different reasons why it might happen, but the end result is that the woman then starts mistrusting herself, because the person that she loves, the person that she's trusted up until this point, is saying these things about her, and she thinks, wait, am I too angry? Am I not meeting his needs sexually? You start doubting yourself. So it's not just, I don't trust my person. Now it's also, I don't trust myself. So what do I know? How do I know what is real and accurate?
Well, Coach Sarah, I have talked to many women who have gone through that, and even to the point where the husband will even say, well, all guys do it, and so your perception is wrong. It's not a wrong thing to do. They're just pictures, and so you're wrong in thinking that I'm wrong in doing this. So you must have come across that as well, I would imagine.
Absolutely. That's some of the minimizing behavior, right? Basically, it's telling the woman that what you want is not okay because everybody else, does this. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't matter what her feelings are in that moment, whether she's okay with it or not. Like, he's dismissing, invalidating. That's the invalidating part of the emotions or the desires.
So and I guarantee there are women listening right now who are thinking this right now, that my Absolutely. Feelings are invalid. I know there are. And so then can you let us know, what do you do? What does a woman do? What are 5 ways to jumpstart healing after this discovery, the healing from the trauma of discovery?
Yeah, so thank you. That's a great question. I think as I've mulled over this question and thought about what are some 5 key things to get started, I think absolutely one of the number one things to do is to get and build a good support team. And what I mean by a good support team is a support group. It used to be that only you could go to like S&on groups locally. Now there are so many virtual groups. BTR.org, we supply virtual groups. There's Facebook groups. You need to get yourself out of isolation, right? This is a very isolating experience because it's a very private experience. You don't necessarily want to go and tell everybody about what you're struggling with. So getting out of isolation helps you be able to check in with others what you're going through and hear, oh, I'm not the only one who's heard that come from my husband. Okay, so maybe now I don't feel like I'm going crazy. And so that validation piece is crucial. It helps a lot of women get back to themselves and regain their footing of what is real, what is true, what can I believe in, who can I believe in, who is safe, and all of these kinds of things. I would also say helping professionals. My preference or my suggestion is trauma-informed professionals, because there's still quite a lot of professionals that are going to automatically lump betrayal partners into a codependent or co-addict segment, and that's not necessarily helpful or true. So I suggest looking at trauma-informed specialists. And again, you can go to APSATS.org. They have a list of helping professionals, whether that's coaches or therapists. And then also on our website, BTR.org, we have lists to helping professionals as well that are all trauma-informed. And I think that's really important because those professionals will help in a lot of my follow-up suggestions, because they're going to recommend books and groups and workshops that are all safe. To me, that is a key word. Like, brand that word into your brain. Safe. Safety is the ultimate number one thing, the ultimate way and how to frame things, how to move through these steps. Where do I not feel safe and how do I get safe? Emotionally, mentally, if need be, if it pertains physically. So yeah, build a good support team. Within that, I think it's really important to intentionally decide who you're going to tell and who you're not going to tell. Again, with the framing of who is safe, right? Because not everybody is safe. Sometimes our parents are super safe, sometimes they're not. Sometimes friends are safe, sometimes they're not. Unfortunately, sometimes our pastors and lay people are safe, and sometimes they're not. And also, unfortunately, sometimes we think someone's going to be safe, and they're not. So there is a risk, which is why I think the intentionality around that is really important. Think about it, give thought about who you want to bring in, that it's going to help support you through your healing journey. So it's going to be long. The second thing I would say is to educate or empower and equip yourself. The way that you can do that is through, again, these books. Your Sexually Addicted Spouse, How Partners Can Cope and Heal is one of my go-to books. That's by Marsha Means and Barb Steffens. And another one that I really like is Worthy of Our Trust by Jason Martinkus. That's a great one for both partners and the husbands. It's written towards the addict, but it's an extremely validating, permission-giving book for the partner as well. There are lots and lots of websites. And then the websites will link to other websites and blogs that you can follow. Begin reading anything that especially is trauma informed and deals with things like gaslighting, like betrayal trauma. Again, btr.org has podcasts and articles around a lot of these topics that will be helpful. The third thing that I would say is to, again, going to this word of safety, reestablish safety in your home. I believe that it's every woman's right to make her home be her safe place. And so with that mindset, to look at where do I need to put up boundaries? I mean, here we are at Covenant Eyes. It's a great place to start. Requiring that all electronic devices have Covenant Eyes on them, so that there's safety, knowing that at least there's some level of protection about how easily it is for your husband to access any sites that would be inappropriate. And there are lots of other boundaries that you can put in place. A lot of women put a boundary of sexual abstinence for a while, thinking about where do I not feel safe and how can I make myself feel safe emotionally, physically, mentally, and spiritually. The fourth thing is to practice self-care. This one is huge for me. If we are going to make it through our journey of the ups and downs, the difficult times, the strain, the mental work that it can be, we need to give ourselves permission, especially as women, to prioritize our self-care. Sometimes, if it's a choice between doing the dishes or taking 30 minutes to calm yourself and listen to some relaxing music, maybe light a candle, that is so crucial for us. We have to have those moments of self-care where we're able to build some resiliency. And it can be really difficult for women, especially moms, to prioritize that. So I say give yourself permission to prioritize your self-care. And self-care doesn't have to always be like, I have to go to the spa. Self-care for me sometimes is going to the end of my driveway and gazing at the moon for 10 minutes. It can be simple, it can be free. Whatever fills your body and your heart and your soul with joy. And then the fifth thing I would say is something that I call there's not a tiger in the room. Now, I didn't come up with that phrase, a therapist did. But what that is that's a reminder to ground yourself. Especially early on after discovery, we can have a lot of trauma responses. We can get triggered really easily and go into that flight, fight, or freeze. And so when we say there's not a tiger in the room, we're reminding ourselves that I'm not actually going to die right now. I'm safe. You're telling your body, in this room right now, like I can look around and I can see paintings, I can see lights, like there's no tiger. Our body responds like there's an actual tiger in the room and we're about to die. But we're not. So we just remind ourselves. And so doing different grounding practices to help us pull ourselves back into the present and out of those cycling thoughts that can go in our head when we get triggered and go into trauma. So for me, those are 5 pretty, not easy, but they don't take a lot of time to begin to at least start doing those. So those are 5 things you can accomplish fairly soon within after your discovery.
Coach Sarah, I really like that last point. I like the imagery of that last point. There's not a tiger in the room. It really brings to mind a couple of women who I've corresponded with who really have that sense like my life is in jeopardy here. There's such a panic trauma that's going on right now, and clearly there's a lack of safety, a lack of a sense of safety. And so one of your other points on to reestablish that safety, I think that's an important point. So now those are 5 things, and you gave some practical ideas on, for instance, reach out to a group, find a support group, and so on. Self-care, I think, is one that you can look at. Like you said, sit in your car for an extra 10 minutes and just meditate or pray or whatever, just to your own self-care. But do you have any other action items? I'm hoping that you'll tell us how to contact you, for instance. What would be some action items for these people that are experiencing this trauma to take?
One of my favorite words is intentional. And it's really important for us to understand as people that are trying to heal from trauma is, I don't know about the rest of women, but myself and a lot of my clients personally, when we're in that place, it's really, really hard to come up with ideas, right? Like, can somebody just please tell me what to do? Because I can't access that part of my brain. And so if we prepare, if we bring in that intentional aspect, then we already have those things in the moment and we don't have to make any decisions. We just have to pull out our tools. So one of the things that I like to say to do is begin by asking yourself, what do I need the most? That can help prioritizing, because we can often get very overwhelmed by the many, many different things that need to be done. So simplifying things by what do I actually need the most today? Maybe it's self-care. Maybe it's today I need to reach out and find a therapist. Maybe today it's I really, really need this boundary around this. And so asking ourselves, what do I need the most, can be very clarifying. And it's really practical and not something that takes a lot of work or pulling out worksheets or books. Very simple. I like lists. With the self-care thing, I think it's really a great action step to make a list of 20 things that you can do for self-care. And it can be anything, again, from, making sure I take a shower today. When we're super traumatized, that might be a huge self-care. Or it might be going on a walk with my dog, anything. It can be free, it can be cost, but if you make 20 suggestions or more, and then you can say, I just want to do one of these today. You wake up in the morning and you look at your list and, okay, I can make a goal of just doing one. And if you're doing just one every day over 7 weeks, that's huge. So to me, that's a really practical action step around the self-care, but it starts with the intentionality of the 20 items, 20 names, descriptions. I also think that it's important to, with the overwhelming thing, to take one thing at a time. And this is a really practical action step as well. If you allow yourself to just say, all I have to do is the next right thing, but make sure you actually name it, right? So maybe I've got 20 things on my to-do list. I'm just going to take this one thing and I'm going to name that today I'm going to do self-care, but I'm going to make sure that I do it, right? So I think that's important if we're going to go with that mentality of just one thing at a time to actually commit to do it. And then the last thing is begin collecting your resources. So yes, if you want to contact me, you can either go to btr.org and there's the list of all the different coaches and you would just click on my picture, or you can email me at Sarah with an H at btr.org. Pretty easy to contact me by email as well. And like I said before earlier in the podcast or the Facebook Live, that our website, btr.org, has great resources. I'm sure we're up to probably like 50 podcasts and a bunch of different articles and coaches and therapists and groups that you can join that are topic-based or support-based. And we refer out as needed as well. And we can connect you with other resources as well. But even just Googling, like the grounding thing, Google grounding techniques, and a list of the 20 best grounding techniques will come up, and they're really helpful. I did that right before we got on this Facebook Live thing about an hour ago. Really easy to find some really good grounding techniques.
So tell me how you became a coach. You sound like a woman who has experienced this yourself from the way you're talking. What led you to become a coach?
Yeah, you're right, Ron. This is part of my story. My discovery was almost 7 years ago. And I was a missionary, pastor's wife, and we were doing all different kinds of things, associate pastors, we did a church plant, and then my discovery happened in January of 2011, and that's what started me on my road to becoming a certified coach. The very first coach that I had was Marcia Means. I referenced her earlier in the book, and she kind of saw my heart to mentor others that I had developed through my years in ministry. And she encouraged me. She said, Sarah, have you ever thought of how you might be able to use your story to help others? And I had already, admittedly, started to think, how can I make this pain count for something? And so she encouraged me to get certified as a life coach. And that was the beginning of my journey into helping partners.
Coach Sarah, that's a great story. I want to thank you for joining us here at Facebook. I know that you're talking to some people out there who right now are not feeling safe, who right now are experiencing that trauma of the discovery that your spouse is perhaps a sex addict and is just engulfed in pornography, and perhaps feeling hopeless. And so I hope that you who are experiencing that lack of safety right now will seek safety. Will try to reestablish your own safety by contacting Coach Sarah, or find some of these other resources. Follow these steps. Listen to this again if you need to write it down. If you weren't writing them down, write them down, and follow these steps to reestablish safety in your life so that you can overcome this trauma, this very profound trauma. So I would encourage you to do that. We are, I thank you, Sarah, for joining us, and we are, tomorrow, again, we're doing another Facebook Live. One of the things that we here at Covenant Eyes are trying to do is change culture, and changing culture is not a small thing, and you really have to reach up to the very highest echelons of culture in order to really change culture. And tomorrow I'm going to be telling a story of how we have a representative in a very high place that is actually working to affect the very upper echelons of culture. And so I sure hope you'll join me tomorrow at noon. I'm not going to tell the secret of who it is, but please join me at noon tomorrow. And again, Coach Sarah, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate your work, your mystery, and your willingness to share your own story, and also to share it in a way that you can help others. So thank you, Coach Sarah.
Thank you, Ron.
And thank you for joining us on this Facebook and YouTube Live. Please take the time to like us on both YouTube and Facebook.